Authorities are trying to determine exactly what caused a house in Center City, Philadelphia to literally blow up early this morning. Live in the 2300 block of Naudain is Action News reporter Shari Williams. Shari, what about all those evacuated residents on the block? What's their status?
Well, Jim, it really is the tale of two sides of the street, if you will. This side heavily damaged because this is the epicenter of where everything happened. This is the explosion side. These residents are either in hotels or staying with family tonight. But on this side of the street, a different story. The power has been restored, and these residents will sleep in their beds tonight. After being forced to evacuate from their home for hours, the Kingsleys are back inside.
It is very nice to be back in our home. We're surprised we could get back in this early, but we're very happy about that.
And happy to be alive after an explosion happened right across the street from them.
It's right at our doorstep.
This row home in the 2300 block of Naudain was leveled by the blast. Firefighters were called out around 3 a.m. after residents smelled something funny.
CO alarm going off in one of the residences, and that person got up and decided that something was up, and they smelled some sulfur smell, like a rotten egg smell.
Firefighters found high levels of carbon monoxide in the area and evacuated the south side of the street. About 30 minutes later, this home exploded.
Attention, ladder 9, engine 24, 2300 Naudain St, apartment D Delta for the alarm system. Ladder 9, engine 24, 2300 Naudain St, apartment D Delta for the alarm system. Not from the South Fire Band.
When we got there, there was someone hanging out the window, basically saying that, hey, do you smell that? And I look around, yeah, I smell it. And I didn't quite recognize it. I didn't recognize what the odor was. We had our meters with us, and we were getting that warmed up, getting ready to start taking readings. When one of my firefighters said that they felt the ground moving, and I walked over by them, and sure enough, the ground was shaking. And I'm like, all right, this is weird because of the smell, something different with the ground. Never experienced this before. And then one of the firefighters said, look, we got worms jumping out of the dirt. And like, what? And I look, and sure enough, there was worms that were jumping out and hitting the concrete, which I've never seen before. And at that time, I asked for a chief to respond.
Ladder 9. Ladder 9. That's the chief to my location. Reason for the chief, sir? I have an unusual odor here. I need his meter. Affirmative.
Our primary results with the metering was that we were getting high CO readings. So I ordered started investigating the houses nearby, especially we were getting the highest readings to get in to make sure that we evacuated the properties. The first door we opened up, we had somebody down on the ground unconscious. Her pets were deceased. They passed away from the CO. We were able to pull her out, get her out of the building. And we started the process of evacuating the other apartments, which we thought were apartments at the time as we went through this process. When we came down, Battalion 1 got on location, and we started taking the readings throughout the properties. And as we did it, we went up till we got no readings. We went back, and we still made sure we had everybody evacuated, everything was still going. It was still low-key, it wasn't really a big deal as of yet. No signs of smoke, no signs of any fire. Nothing, just the odor and that shaking, and not realizing that in that area, all the wires are on the ground, everything. I'm thinking it's like row homes, it's a regular house, so a regular block. As we went through, we went back in to get more readings, and we ended up following it down a block. The CO readings we picked up from house to house to house. And it started out high where it got a little bit lower. When we went back in and double checked again to see if it was progressing, it did. It was high from where we let off, and it started getting down a block. We started getting readings in the middle of the street, up around 300 parts per million for CO. We checked the houses on the other side of the block. We started getting readings in those houses.
Battalion 4's 8. Battalion 4's 8. Battalion 4 reports they're evacuating the south side of the street due to high readings. Notify OEM and Red Cross.
Battalion 4's 8, do you have an approximate number of people you're evacuating, and where will they be?
Nearby.
Battalion 4-8.
Battalion 4 reports evacuated an additional 3 properties, total of 4. I have 22 civilians. They're at the corner of 23rd and Naudain. Also dispatch another engine and ladder. Have them report to 24th and Naudain.
Affirmative.
We get dispatched to the 2300 block of Naudain Street for manpower. They had an apartment building, had CO levels, 24s had gone in, actually made a save, I think a couple saves actually, and we were just dispatched late into it for manpower. We get there, we park at the far end of the block. I can see wisps of smoke coming up through the cracks in the concrete on the sidewalk. And it was not the stress cracks that the concrete guys put in. These are actual cracks in the concrete, so it's coming out of the ground.
In the meantime, as this is all going on, one of the houses that we evacuated, one of the first houses that were there, the lady said that her cat was inside and she was crying, she wanted her cat. Sometimes a person's pet is their life. And so I was like, okay, let's go get that cat. To me, it was a mistake that I'll never make again. I was wrong. Once you evacuate a property, that's it. Nobody goes back in. And I let 2 firemen go in. They couldn't find a cat. They came out. They said I couldn't find the cat.
Chief asked me, he goes, I'm gonna cut you loose, but before you do, just do me a favor, take a peek in that house, see what we've got. So I walk in the house, it's dark, but there's no smoke, maybe a light haze, nothing going on. Walk through the living room, dining room, get into the kitchen area. I get to the top of the basement steps and I can hear wires arcing. But it was different, it was strange. The sound of the arcs made it sound like they were large diameter wires. It wasn't like little crackles, it was large sounding arcs. So they would crackle real loud, and then it sounded like they were muffled, like they were underwater, and I could hear what I thought was water boiling. Like, that's strange. So I was gonna go down the basement steps, and I don't know why I didn't. I just decided not to. And I knelt down at the top of the steps. I started leaning into the landing to take a peek. I'm shining the flashlight down, trying to get a peek of what I've got in the basement before I commit. And just the house just belches. Just all of a sudden, it was just a puff. And it was packed. Stem to stern, floor to ceiling, just smoke. I couldn't see anything. But it pushed me back from the door. So as I'm coming back from the door, I stand up, but now I'm kind of turned around. And I hear Chief Drew yelling, "Dan, get out, Dan, get out." And I call out to him, like, "I'm coming," but I'm disoriented now because I turned around. I don't remember the exact layout where the furniture was and everything. I walked into the countertop. I walked into a wall. I got my hands out. I'm feeling, trying to get to a wall to guide myself out and go towards his voice. Still can't see anything. I mean, it is packed. I get through the living room, bump into the couch and the coffee table, everything there. And I can now see like just a glow of a light. And it's the chief, he's outside, he's shining his flashlight in the doorway. You just kind of see a little glow of a light. And I'm going towards the light and his voice. And I got what I believe to be maybe a foot, like a foot meaning one pace, one step from the door. It's tough to tell because of the smoke. There's no distance for bearings. And I felt what felt like being punched really hard in the back. And my immediate thought was, I never went in here, like, who just punched me? Like, what just happened? And I look over my left shoulder to see, like to turn to see what's going on, and I realize I'm in the air. Like, I'm flying.
All of a sudden, there was a real low concussion. It was almost like whoop. And it was powerful, but yet it was so low. It was almost nauseating in your stomach with the way the house blew up. Turned around, kind of blew everything away. Everything blew up.
We're receiving an emergency activation from ladder 5.
Stand by. Ladder 9. Engine 24, ready up.
Ladder 9.
948.
948.
We just had an explosion on the street. Dispatch a box alarm.
That's affirmative.
I hit the side of a parked car. Don't know how far. It was across the street. I found out it was across the street, but at the time I didn't realize how far it was. I hit the car, and now I'm just being pummeled with bricks, like debris, everything else. I'm just getting hammered. And I just crawled under the bumper area of the car. I crawled around the other side, and I'm on the sidewalk, and I'm just total dazed, like just everything. The sound was muffled. Everything was just kind of like that dream where you wake up and you're like, am I really awake or asleep? Is this really happening? And I see flashlights bouncing coming down the street. I hear guys hollering, and it took me a few seconds to be able to respond. Like I'm standing like beside the car. Now I'm up and I'm leaning on the car, and I remember walking out past the car, and there was a fireman standing there. I find out afterwards it was Joe Stratton. But I walk up to him, and I had to lean on him because I was dizzy and everything else. You know, I put my arm around him, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And he turns around, he sees me, he just starts shouting like, "Dan, you're alive! We thought you were dead!" And I'm like, "No, I'm not dead. So now we got work to do." And so then we started setting up hose line and everything else.
When I turned around, the chief was gone. There was bricks out in the middle of the street. I started yelling for the chief, couldn't find him. Finally, he popped up between two parked cars, and you know, he was dazed and confused with the bricks and everything, debris falling on him. But once he got his senses back about him, he took command and did a great job. We ended up going for the second alarm. All companies had these quarter lines. He had companies go on the roof to make sure it didn't spread, and we went in service that way. I guess the biggest part about the whole situation, what I learned, was that if you evacuate a property, that's it. No one goes back inside. You evacuate it for a reason. It's not safe, and guys, I sent guys back in, and I shouldn't have. I made a mistake, and it won't happen again. And then if I can say that to you guys, make sure nobody else does it. That's the best way to do it.
Total catastrophic failure of the house. There was no warning other than an initial puff. Had no idea when it happened, what happened. It blew up. Ended up taking down the wall of the building next to it, the apartment building. The house was a total catastrophic collapse. Half the house next to it came down. And they determined it was a CO explosion. I'm assuming the wires set it off, the arcing wires eventually set it off. But it was an interesting night.
And it just, you know, it just progressed. But with the fires, it was an underground fire with all the wiring in that neighborhood. And when we went back here the next couple of days, the fire marshal showed us all the wires that melted together on the ground. And that's what caused all that. And that's what caused the CO spread the whole block. You know, it started out boom, boom, boom. When this house exploded, one of the things we need to understand, and it happens, but it doesn't happen all the time. In fact, it's very rare. This was what they call a CO explosion. This was not a gas explosion. Because there was actually a point when we were being interviewed after this that the gas company came in and they're blaming the electric company. The electric company was blaming the gas company. But we were getting CO readings and high CO readings. The explosive limit that they had to reach had to be a couple 100,000 parts per million for that to reach that explosive limit. But it did. It reached that limit in that house.
When you look at how these walls were blown out and that the building collapsed, you think about how right the firefighters were to evacuate this building when they did, because it may have saved someone's life.